Hello and welcome to another first impression video. I'm Drew Wilson from FreezeNet. Today we are going to be doing something a little different. We are going to be checking out some hardware today. And of course, as you may already notice, wait, 2 videos in a month? Well, that's my goal. I'm hoping to produce even more content for you at this point in time. It's kind of like a New Year's resolution, I suppose. But yeah, we're going to be upping our content production game right now. So I just thought, something just a little different as opposed to the usual just videos of our first impressions of video games. So let's dive straight into this one. So I got my fair share of video games in the past, and as you can tell by the reviews, here's the Super Nintendo, and played so many hours on that, and I really loved all the different games. It had lots of great games, Earthbound being one of them. There's Uniracers, there's Super Mario RPG. There's lots of different games, and the controllers, it seems kind of simple by comparison. Like, this is the original controller, and it came standard with any Super Nintendo. And then if you wanted to up your game a little bit but not develop carpal tunnel, you can also have the Super Pad, which was a little bit more colorful, and if you wanted to rapidly press a button, you just flick a switch here. That's slow, and then you can do rapid, and it'll allow you to do rapid tapping, without actually hammering the actual key or buttons to begin with. So definitely old technology by today's standards, but man, this was like the thing to play back in the early 90s. So then after the Super Nintendo came along, and the game started developing into sort of pseudo 3D graphics, like the graphics chip that came with all the FX games, Star Fox FX for instance. It really became apparent that we were going into a whole new world of 3D gaming, and it made sense that we went from the Super Nintendo to the N64, where 3D gaming actually became the norm, which was really cool. And I remember when I first played my first 3D game, it was like a world, like it was a whole new world. Like, it was just absolutely astonishing that games could actually be 3D. And there were some drawbacks too, like trying to walk in a straight line, which by today's standards that seems quite quaint, but when you're used to 2D graphics, suddenly going into 3D, you're just not used to it, and you find yourself walking off of bridges or whatever in different games. But yeah, I eventually did get used to it, but it was quite the transition when I was much younger back then. And so the N64 was released on September 29, 1996, and you had like cartridges that measured in like 4 megabytes to 64 megabytes. It depends on what kind of era you're in, and it came with like all sorts of different controllers too, like mostly just the color. And the novel thing about these controllers, I find some people criticize the controllers, but I like them because you could really play it to your preference. Like, you could play like this, you can play like this, or you can play like this. It really was all about your personal preference, and I don't think I see very many controllers since then kind of have like that kind of how do you want to play kind of deal. So it came in all sorts of colors: green, blue, red, gray. Gray was the standard color, and it was quite the experience. And if you wanted, and as technology progressed, we started getting into some features that were more familiar, like Rumble came with its own accessory. If you wanted to save games, you had this if it didn't come in the controller. And if you're really into gaming, this is like 4 of these guys in one, which was really cool. I loved having that. Like, it was just unlimited save things. But today we're not exactly going into those kind of this kind of system, but so I just wanted to offer a point of comparison. Today is going to be a little different. Today, I am going to be revealing the next system I plan on taking on. And that system is PlayStation 5, PlayStation 5, PlayStation 5, PlayStation 5. Oh, PlayStation 3. Yeah, I just recently picked this up. And as you can tell, definitely a lot larger than the other two consoles. And I would say, weight-wise, yeah, this is definitely the heaviest. But hey, more power in these kind of cons and more modern consoles, which I guess today by today's standards, not very modern at all. But compared to these guys, yeah, it's very modern. So this guy right here was released, well, not specifically this model, but the PlayStation 3 was released in November 11, 2006. So that's like almost about a whole decade after this guy. It was this is 2 generations after, and my first impressions were like, wow, this is going to be a really interesting experience. I have a DualShock controller, and it's actually has some similarities to the N64 controller. I mean, you have these guys after all. Yeah, and of course, by this point in time, Rumble feature was built into the controller. You didn't have to have an accessory like this anymore. And another big feature that I was kind of doing some research is that these guys are their own media center. You could actually stream movies. You could stream Netflix, YouTube, that sort of thing. Like this guy is like a whole media center. I mean, that's what a world of difference between this guy and this guy. Where the N64, I mean, all it was for was gaming. What more do you want? You have your video games, you buy your cartridges, and you just plug it in, and away you go. But this guy, it's a world of difference, because games, you could still get like the actual DVDs, or not DVDs, Blu-rays. Sorry, I'm thinking of PlayStation 2. My bad. I mean, you had games that came in Blu-ray, and a lot of people bought the PlayStation 3 for the Blu-ray player. And the lighting is a little bit, there we go, let's try this here. I didn't take into this account. So you had all these plenty of different games you could buy physically. One of the more standard games, Gran Turismo 5 right there. A little bit of a spoiler alert for those who are wondering what games I'm going to be playing, so that's just an example of that. And but the other thing too is that you didn't have to physically like buy the game itself. You could actually hook up to the PlayStation Network, and you could download your own games. Like the concept of this having like a console having hard drive space was not something that was hardly even considered when you were in this era, the N64 era. Like, it was just like, well, why do you need hard drive space? You have the cartridge, you have like memory cards to save your game. Why do you want hard drive space? But different era, you could put movies on your video game consoles. So it's a totally different world for me, and I think for a lot of you probably think, oh yeah, that's old technology. I have never actually managed to play a PlayStation 3 game yet. I know it's shocking, but that is soon going to change with this guy right here. I'm going to dive into PlayStation 3 games and try and, experience more modern consoles, just gradually move myself forward. And I think I'm in for an interesting experience, because a lot of people will react when I mentioned that I've never played a PlayStation 3, but I'm buying a PlayStation 3, and a lot of the reaction was, oh, you're gonna be in for a great treat, you're gonna love it. So I'm kind of excited. I really like the games on the PlayStation 2, so I think this might be an interesting thing for me to check out as the next generation up. So I think that'll about do it, actually. So So the goal essentially is that I'll be doing my usual Steam game for the first part of the month, and then a week later, this is preliminary, but a week later I'll be doing a first impression video of a PlayStation 3 game. So that's the goal for now. Hopefully I can follow through and actually do that. So anyway, that's all for now. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more from us, there's plenty of ways you can help support us. You can directly support us with our Patreon page at patreon.com/freezenet, and you can get a whole bunch of exclusive stuff. You can you can get advanced copies of our podcast and just a whole bunch of other features that normal people don't actually get their hands on. And if Patreon's not your gig, then you can check out our Ko-fi page, ko-fi.com/freezenet, and you can just buy us a coffee and still be able to give us like a one-time tip if assuming Patreon isn't your thing. But if times are tough and you don't know how you can support me that way, well, there's plenty of other ways you can support us. You can drop us a like if you like what you see, and lets us know like, hey, you're doing a great job. So also you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, and then you can get all the latest videos as well. So yeah, plenty of ways you can support us. You can also check out our website at freezenet.ca. You can get all the latest music and video game reviews, as well as the latest in news. We've got lots of stuff on there, a whole full-fledged wiki, so you can actually, explore music like you've never heard of before, and the wiki makes things so much easier, and I highly recommend it because I put a lot of effort into that thing, and so you'll enjoy it. It's a fun experience, to say the least. And anyway, that's all for now, and until next time, keep it cool.